Hello and welcome to the program. I'm your host, Neal Howard. Thank you for joining us here today on Health Professional Radio. We're featuring Miss Lisa Jacobson. She's the founder of the Daily Migraine and also inventor of the Migraine hat. And she's joining us today to talk about her journey with migraine, suffering from migraine for many years, and also here to share with us some tips for those of us who are suffering from migraine. Welcome to Health Professional Radio, Lisa Jacobson.
Thank you, Neal.
Now, you're the founder of the Daily Migraine. It sounds like a newspaper of sorts. Talk about the Daily Migraine.
Right. That's why I gave it that name. That's great that you picked that up. Yes. So I have had migraines for 28 years. Mm-hmm. I've had over 9,000 migraines.
Wow.
And, yeah, when I was at my worst, which was a couple of years ago, I realized, I didn't know anybody who got migraines every day or who had chronic migraines, and I really felt very alone. So I decided I was going to go and put a stake in the ground and create something online to find other people who do have it. Mm-hmm. And so what I did was I started the Daily Migraine, and 2 years later we have 300,000 people who are following, which is really exciting.
Impressive, yes, absolutely. So now you've got 300,000 followers. That doesn't begin to represent the number of people that are suffering from, as you say, chronic migraine headaches.
Exactly. There are 37 million people in this country and 1 billion people worldwide with migraine.
Now, what exactly is a migraine headache, and how does it differ from, well, I guess for lack of a better term, your everyday run-of-the-mill headache, say your tension headache?
Right. A migraine is a very serious neurological disease, and most people, they've had a headache at one time or another in their life, and so that's what they assume that it is. But there's really nothing that's the same about it. A migraine is very debilitating, and so, there's to make the diagnosis, there's certain things that doctors look at. So, for instance, is your headache one-sided? Do you have nausea with your headache? Or, a lot of times people actually don't just have head pain. They have neurological functions that are really, for instance, I'll give you an example, and this is something I discovered just by asking people on the Daily Migraine, and they've done studies of it since, which is that people start smelling things that don't exist, specifically pneumonia, cat urine, and cigarette smoke, which is so bizarre, isn't it? That they're very specific things. They taste blood. They hear whispering. I mean, there are so many things. There are over 300 types of headache disorders.
So
it's a very serious thing.
In addition to this pain, this debilitating pain, you're also having sensory, I guess, hallucinations. Now, I guess because you mentioned some specific aromas and whatnot, this is information that you're getting based on feedback from you reaching out with the Daily Migraine and, of course, your website as well. Is that correct?
Yes, and so what happens is every day I post about 8 times, and I ask a question called the Daily Cope question, and thousands of people answer it. And so we have the greatest number of people with migraine anywhere in the world in one place. So even doctors come to me, and doctors come to the Daily Migraine and ask me if I can ask some hypothetical questions, because we are a greater number of people than any doctor could have in his or her office.
Absolutely.
And since there's so little funding for it, because people think it's a headache, that having anecdotal discussions is really, really helpful. And I'll ask people, what is the greatest, help to you about the Daily Migraine? And I would say 95% of the people say they don't feel alone anymore. So they can go to the website, and that's like a repository. It's almost like a library for migraine. Or they can go to Instagram or Facebook, where there are thousands and thousands of people. It's like an online support group.
You've suffered thousands of headaches that are, classified as migraine headaches. Do you ever suffer any other type of headache that is not attributed to this disease?
No, it's all migraine related. And it's really something, because when you have it, you really can't function. Most of us who have migraine, we relate it to a 1 to 10 level. And if you're at a 9 or a 10, you're at the emergency room. If you're most people, and I've asked this question many times, if you're above a 7 to 9, you really can't function. It's way too painful. But if you're below a 6, I would say you have a bad headache. It's sort of a mild migraine. And most people with migraine would actually be able to function that way. And so the goal is to take, whether it's medication or alternative treatments, to try to knock it down a couple of pegs lower, because there's no cure right now. So what you have to do is spend a lot of your time figuring out how to just knock it down.
Have you ever had a period of time where there was no pain? And if that time does exist, what do you call that?
These questions are really good, especially, I don't think you get migraine, do you? Because they're really good questions. No, I really had very little time when I haven't had migraine. And that's why it's really important to keep a diary, because if you do have days where you don't have it, you can figure out why over time. Now, what I didn't tell you that is really exciting is that after I started the daily migraine, and unrelated to having started it, I went into remission. And so for the last couple of years, I've actually been in remission with a very rare headache, migraine here and there that breaks through. And the way I was able to do it is that I usually try 3 things at once: a medication, an alternative treatment, and some other category. And I do that for 3 months very religiously. And if it doesn't work, I go back to my doctor. We try a new 3 things. But a couple of years ago, when I started this, I was so bad, I tried 10 things at once. Wow. And somehow they eventually went away. And so I don't know which things it was. It's not a very satisfying answer, but I really believe now that people think one treatment will sort of fix you. But I think it's stackable treatments. If you move toward health and you have a better diet and you reduce your stress and you try all sorts of things, maybe medications that work. Some people do acupuncture, chiropractic. I mean, there are hundreds of potential treatments. You can bring them down. It's hard. You have to be very patient. It takes a lot of time sometimes.
What about warning signs? I mean, are you just walking down the street and then all of a sudden, bam, you're at a 10, or a couple of days go by and certain things happen? What are some of the warning signs that you've learned to look for when you're about to have an episode?
Well, we call them triggers.
Okay.
And the longer you have these, the more you start to recognize what your triggers are. And there are multiple triggers. For me, the triggers are heat, light, and glare. So the summer for me is really, really rough. So I always have to have sunglasses on all year round. I have to have a hat on. I really have to stay in the air conditioner. Some people, it's barometric pressure, and it's hard. What are you supposed to do about that when the weather changes? It's tricky. For some women, it's hormonal. There are even certain foods. There's red wine and aged cheese, and then there are odd foods like lemons, avocados. It takes a long time to figure out what your triggers are, but if you can figure them out and if you can avoid them, that's a very good situation.
Now, you say that there's no cure, and I guess medications, preventative measures such as you've been discussing here with us. You've invented something though called the migraine hat. Now, the name suggests that maybe this is a solution to migraine sufferers, or at least some relief. Talk about the migraine hat as the inventor.
Sure. Well, the Daily Migraine is a labor of love. I self-fund it. It's something I do because I love it to help other people. But I realized my next step is to really come up with a way to raise money for migraine. And I was trying to think of something like the Ice Bucket Challenge, which is hard to do, to repeat that. But I realized that, people don't want to just give money. They don't really see that it is going to benefit them. So I decided to invent something that would help people with migraine. And then the money that they paid to buy it, I would take my share and give it to migraine awareness. So that basically it was sort of a double benefit. So I noticed, as many people with migraine do, that ice really, really helps when you have a migraine. And, you have ice packs and you lie on them and they drip and then they're not cold. And the worst thing of all is you're stuck in a room, in a dark room, lying there, having your life pass you by. So I decided to put the ice pack into a hat. So it looks like a black winter hat, like just a plain hat, and you can wear it anywhere, or certainly wear it inside. And the ice just pops in. It's an ice pack, and it's individually little ice cubes, and it comes with 2 ice packs, and it's only $29.95. It is one size fits all. It's really cozy. You can make it tight. Some people like compression. You can make it loose if it's a child, if it's a large person. And basically what you do is you get a migraine, you just put it on. It takes 2 seconds. And so what happened, and the reason why people are just raving about it, which I'm so pleased, is that let's say your migraine's a 9 and you can't sleep, and you just, all you want to do is just get to sleep and get rid of it. It'll knock it down, because it dulls it. It'll knock it down to a 7 so you can sleep. But if you're a 7, it will knock it down to, let's say, like a 5. And then you actually, as I said before, just have a bad headache. And people with migraine would take that any day. And so that means you can be mobile. You're not just in a room. Yes, your head hurts. And your life isn't passing you by, as you said. Right, because what happens is we have to cancel plans. We have to say no to our kids. A lot of people have had to leave their jobs. They're basically resigned to living in a dark cave, and your life is gone. That's how bad it is. It's really not a headache at all. And so with the migraine hat, you can just put it on, and then and we have 2 ice packs. And so they're swapped out. Once one gets warm, you put the other one in and put it back in the freezer. And there's also an optional cooler, so you can take it with you to the beach, to work, on vacation. It is getting rave reviews, and I'm thrilled, because whatever money I make from the sale of it, I just give it to migraine awareness. So it's really a benefit. Also, the company does a triple guarantee. If somebody doesn't like it, they'll pay to return it. So it's really, there's no risk at all involved, and people say it's changed their life. Just right before we got on air here, someone wrote me and said how thrilled she was, and she was wearing it right now, and she was actually at work, and she thought she was going to have to cancel and go home. But didn't have to do that. No. Great. Now, where can our listeners go online and get more information about the migraine hat and the daily migraine? Sure. Migraine hat is at migrainehat.com, or on Amazon. You just type in migraine hat, and you'll see it right there. And the daily migraine is thedailymigraine.com. People can also follow it. To be part of the community, they can follow it on Facebook or Instagram. Thank you so much. You've been listening to Health Professional Radio with Lisa Jacobson, founder of the Daily Migraine and inventor of the Migraine Hat. It's been a pleasure having you here with us today, Lisa. Thank you so much, Neal. Thank you. Bye-bye. Transcripts and audio of this program are available at healthprofessionalradio.com.au and also at hpr.fm. You can listen in on SoundCloud, and you can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes.